Andrew, tell me, where did your farming career begin? Like, were you brought up on the farm or?
I was, yeah, but I guess I'm a little bit different in that I've told this story like 20 times now, it feels like, but I never wanted to farm.
Yeah.
So my entry into farming sort of came from a different angle,
Okay.
in that what really got me sort of to actually want to do this full time
Hmm.
was that it was a business.
Yeah.
So that's the part I enjoyed.
Yeah.
So are you doing a degree in agriculture?
I'm doing a degree in
Right, well, I
agriculture.
done
Yeah.
that degree, and I only done it because it was fairly easy grades to get into.
Yeah.
Didn't know what else I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll do agricultural technology, and the whole way through that degree, I thought I'll go do a PhD or go get a job, something like that.
Yeah.
Didn't really ever plan to farm. Got to the end of it, decided I didn't want to do a PhD, got fed up with uni and studying, and decided I'd give farming a go,
Yeah.
and then really liked it. So
What do you think took you away from farming at the beginning? Was there aspects of it that you didn't like?
I just, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I guess my dad would have worked very long hours,
Yeah.
like, out every evening to like 7:30.
Yeah.
And we were not encouraged to farm, but we were not discouraged from farming. So it was kind of just up to us. But that meant that I didn't go out in the farm a lot as a teenager. I was doing other stuff, interested in other things. So I was never one of them people who was like obsessed with tractors, wanted to be outside all the time. I just grew up building model planes and playing computer games.
Yeah, you had a different interest altogether.
Different interests, so I wasn't like grew up just wanting to farm. And then whenever I got to the end of uni, I was like, it's a really good business. It's worth a couple of £1 million as an asset. I was like, I should probably see if I can make that work. And then, yeah, really liked it.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting way because you see a lot of people now, they go into farming from young age and they've always been interested in farming.
Yeah.
But for you, this has been more of a business aspect of it that you've been countering. Do you have an early morning milk?
We do 6:30.
6:30?
Yeah, it's not. I don't do them. I come over here about 7:15.
Really?
Yeah, I'm definitely a night person.
Yeah.
So like a lot of nights I'll be up to like 1 a.m. But more like 12:30 now.
Yeah.
But I prefer the evenings. I do most of my work in the evening.
And how did farm theory come about? Was this always something you wanted to do?
Well, so the name actually came from, this shows how much of a nerd I am, but I went through like a month where I listened to so much podcasts and stuff about a thing called game theory. And game theory is like a mathematical concept where there's always one perfect choice, like an optimal decision. It's kind of not what it is, but that's kind of what it is. So I came up with a name before I actually started social media. I was like, I'm applying this concept of there has to be a right answer to the farm, because I was interested in the business side of it. So I wanted to like work out what was the best to do. So I had the name Farm Theory, but it took me like a year to actually start a Facebook page under the name Farm Theory. From same logo, same name, everything from day one. Then I started it originally really just because I wanted to post about the farm, and then I also thought, because I was building tech and stuff at the time, I was like, I might want to sell this one day.
Yeah.
It'd be really good to sell it. So started Facebook, Farm Theory, never really done any personal social media or anything like that before. So it was kind of, again, for like a business reason, and it sort of just grew from there.
Very good. And in aspects of tech, how did you get into tech, and how have you started building the likes of GPSs and?
Well, my now wife went to uni for 4 years in Edinburgh. So I was like, happy days, tons more free time to do what I want. And I put that into learning computer programming and building electronics. And it all came from one night at like midnight. I was watching the BBC News channel. Don't do that anymore, but I was at the time. And they showed this thing called a Raspberry Pi. First one that was released way back in like 2012, I think. And at the time, now looking back, like the Raspberry Pi product series has genuinely changed the world. And I just happened to be watching the news channel at the very point where this product was launched. And I was like, I'm going to buy one of them. Bought one, bought a book to learn computer programming. First thing I programmed was a snake game. And I remember being so proud of programming the snake game. Looking back on it, unbelievably basic. And I was like, this is unbelievable. So that sort of started me down this journey of like building electronics. And then I took that and applied it to farming. And I have a thing where I'm usually way overconfident in what I can do. So it was like I decide to do something and it would be way more complicated than I realized. And then I was too stubborn to drop it. So I just had to learn enough to get it done.
Yeah.
So it was this process of like, I'm not giving up on this. I will figure it out. And it's like just bashing your head against a wall until you learn it. So I remember going to Edinburgh to visit Jess whenever she was in second year. And she would have went to class, say she had a class during the afternoon or whatever, and I would have just stayed in her house and just watched tutorial videos on how to computer program for like 4 or 5 hours straight. I loved it. I loved it.
So it was more of an obsession than anything?
Yeah, no, it was a very good obsession. But it was an obsession. But never planned to actually sell any of it. Just built it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you still integrate that into your farm now?
Yeah, like the farm software that I built over 10, longer than that, like 13 or 14 years ago. Still using it today.
Yeah.
Does all my records.
And would you say you're still able to balance like tradition with innovation?
What do you mean?
So in a sense, like you know, traditional farming practices and being sort of like, as you said, like obsessed with this side of innovation.
I don't have a lot of respect for traditional stuff. Like, it's either the best way to do something or it's not.
Yeah.
And it's the same for like the innovation stuff. Like I own almost no tech on my farm. Like I've bought almost nothing.
Yeah.
Because almost always it's priced at a point where there's very little benefit. So I just refuse to buy it.
Yeah.
And also it annoys me because I know how much it costs to make. So I'm like, you're ripping us all off.
Yeah.
So I just refuse to buy it out of principle. But yeah, no, it's just like this idea of there's a right choice. It doesn't matter if it's how it's always been done or if it's new. It's just whatever's best.
Yeah. And do you think like you have a specific vision for the farm, like where you'd want to go?
I used to. So like 5 years ago, the farm was kind of all I done.
Yeah.
So all of my plans and like what I wanted to progress was all related to the farm. But then since that, I think a lot of that ambition stuff has been replaced with the tech stuff or social media. So the farm has kind of lost out in that I don't really have any plans to keep more cows, don't really try and push performance anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of just, I need it to run time efficiently.
Yeah.
So I can do other stuff.
Yeah. Do you think that, like, you know, pushing performance of cows, what way do you look at that? Do you think that's a valuable way to farm or?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Grazing cows is dumb now. Makes no sense. So like, if you go back to 2021, I suppose, up to that point, the average milk price was 27p.
Yeah.
And it would have fluctuated every 3 years. We would have had big crashes and then slightly higher and big crashes and slightly higher. So in that situation, grazing cows, low input, low output, even medium input, medium output made a lot of sense. But the last 4 years, we've had pretty high prices.
Yeah.
And in that situation, getting more milk per cow is definitely more profitable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why grazing cows, unless it's done for, well, my reason for grazing cows is just from a time aspect. But from a business point of view, it definitely doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah. And is there any upcoming innovations that you're planning to do on the farm?
No. So, not really. There's a couple of things I need to like buildings wise, things I want to finish and get done to make it more time efficient. But there's no grand vision for the farm anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of run it efficiently. And it's not just me, it's not just because I have other stuff, it's that things have changed so much in a few years. that there's almost no way farmers can expand. Like, you can't buy ground, you can't rent ground. Anaerobic digesters have totally destroyed the West and Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculously uncompetitive. They're getting paid a heap of money from the government. How are you meant to compete with that?
Yeah.
And then the regulations around nitrates and phosphates are only going to get worse. So even if you could get the land, you're going to run into them problems. And then you can't build anything because you can't get planning.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not, I've sort of lost a lot of ambition for the farm because of, on one side, I have other stuff to put that into. But the flip of that is I couldn't do anything with the farm if I wanted anyway.
Yeah. Do you think that all those changes are impacted by government policies? Or
Yes. Like, farmers, a great example, 2023 in the UK, record high prices for dairy, and yet more people than ever left the industry.
Yeah.
And we've had really good prices this year, and yet farmers are still, like, really feeling under pressure. And it's because it's government policies which are now making our lives hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not the price we get, it's not so much the markets. And the people exiting the industry despite it being profitable is the perfect real life example of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think a big topic at the minute is the farm inheritance tax.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what your views are on that?
It's not the perfect issue to sort of fight the government on because it has to sort of be explained to the public.
Yeah.
And it's not like a soundbite.
Yeah.
But it's the issue that we've decided to fight the government on.
Yeah.
And it is very much, in my opinion, the final straw. It's kind of like it could have been something else.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
more than just inheritance tax.
Yeah.
Initially, I didn't think the government would change.
Yeah.
But I also didn't think that farmers would be able to sustain the pressure. But I sort of have seen that farmers have managed to sustain the pressure.
Yeah.
It's been amazing how far the message from farmers has got. Like, it's literally went around the world.
Yeah.
Through social media, basically. And it's inflicting real damage on the Labour government.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like us as farmers have endured a lot over the last while.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's just been constant.
It's just been constant, absolutely. And in terms of TV, I seen you did a video on that lately. Like, I know ourselves, we lost all our cows to TV in 2016.
Wow.
You know, it's a devastating impact that, you know, causes an impact for the rest of your life, especially for my father's life.
Yeah.
You know, he's a full-time farmer and went from one day, you know, getting up at 3:30 to milk the cows, and till the next day not having anything to go.
Totally devastating.
It's yeah. If you were in government, what way do you think you would
The solution is actually very clear, and you can look at examples around the world, and it'll tell you what to do.
Yeah.
But the reason no one does it is because it'll take some really tough choices. And by tough choices, I mean every single sector is going to be extremely angry with the solution, including farmers. So I've chatted to plenty of people over the years about TB, and it seems obvious to me and to everyone else that I chat to about this that the solution is going to need every single aspect targeted. So obviously you're going to have wildlife controls. That's like, no country has eradicated the disease without getting rid of the reservoir and wildlife.
Yeah.
But that's the part that farmers want to hear.
Yeah.
The part that farmers don't want to hear is that we can't keep moving animals 3 or 4 times in their life.
Yeah.
You can't have herds losing 50 animals and then going to a mart and buying in another 100. Like, that doesn't work either.
No.
And like, if you have TB in your herd, the test is only 70% accurate at picking up a positive. And even 2 tests, there's still a very good chance there's still TB in your herd. So even if you get open straight after TB, and like, I get that this is almost impossible to actually implement, but then going and selling a heap of cattle, like, there's stuff which there's this is why it's a complicated topic, and no one's willing to do the stuff that needs to happen.
Yeah.
But it's only going to keep getting worse and worse.
Yeah. I feel like, you know, lately also government policies regarding climate change. I feel like climate change is almost an excuse.
Yeah, it's total insanity. It is an excuse.
It is.
Yes, it's an excuse for everything, and it is the greatest wealth transfer, but from the poorest to the richest that we've ever seen. And the fact that the public, I would say up until like maybe a year or two ago, the public were totally hoodwinked by it. It was like painted to them as this panacea where they could have cheap green renewable energy, and now everyone's caught up to the reality, which is that all of us are getting poorer to give money to these giant companies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Public's totally turned against it.
In terms of like the likes of anaerobic digesters, what's your views on that to do with sustainable energy? Like, I've heard quite a few different views on that.
I have no problem with a man who owns an AD plant, and if I lost all my cows to TB, I very well might build an AD plant. I couldn't because I can't get planning, but my point is, it's not like I have an issue with someone who owns an AD plant, right? But it is completely unfair that they're getting paid like 40 plus pence per kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
And the majority of that, like 60% of that, is coming from renewable obligation certificates, which is a renewable energy grant. And yet AD plants emit like 70% of the greenhouse gas emissions that natural gas does.
Yeah.
And it totally destroys the market, because how is a farmer meant to compete with someone who is being subsidised so heavily?
Yeah.
Like, I get that the argument from beef farmers for 30 years was that the dairy farmers would destroy everything, right? I get that, but at least it was fair.
Yeah.
You know, we weren't being subsidised.
No.
So, yeah, AD plants are an absolute, like, from a putting farmers out of business, capping farmers' growth point of view, they have done more damage than government policies.
Yeah.
In the West, certainly.
Yeah. I think in terms of, the way, I know my father, for example, he would be completely against AD plants, just down to the fact that he thinks taking, good silage off the fields.
Besides, they're the biggest customers of maize coming from the mills is going into AD plants.
Yeah.
And they're getting paid for renewable energy.
And
it's the same maize and the same silage goes into a dairy cow, and it's an emission.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like,
I think people coincide it with the likes of renewable energy is also an AD plant, but it's also a wind turbine, and the two of them just
are so different.
They're so different.
So different. Yeah. So different. Yeah. But there's and what's coming in from DARA around these giant AD plants for stripping phosphate out of slurry.
Yeah.
Is a really effective way to get rid of animals in Northern Ireland. Yeah. Which is their goal, but they can't say that's their goal. And it's going to make some very wealthy people even more money at the expense of farmers. Yeah. And they're trying to sell it to farmers like it's once again, it's like a panacea where everything's going to be good, but no one actually thinks it through, does the sums, and works out if these people are going to win and get millions, who's paying for that? Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to come from us. The government have already, cut the slurry by, making us use dribble bars now. Yeah. For example, what do you think? Do you think dribble bars are as effective as using a splash plate? Well, I build a lot of stuff for Slurry Equip, so obviously I think dribble bars are fantastic. Yeah. And everyone should definitely use them. Yeah. But the thing around dribble bars are fine, and they're a good way to apply slurry. Yeah. They do reduce ammonia slightly. But the bigger thing from that whole ammonia thing that people I think should learn is go and read the report where that all came from, which was Make Ammonia Visible. Yeah. And it's full of just misinformation and lies. Yeah. And all of the cost for reducing ammonia has been bore by the livestock sector. Yeah. And like the poultry guys. There's not a single air scrubber in any poultry house in Northern Ireland for ammonia. So like, it's the same stuff is going to happen with phosphate. It's going to be the ruminants, the dairy guys, the beef farmers who end up paying for it. Mm-hmm. But yet 85% of phosphorus coming into Northern Ireland is for animal feed. Yeah. And a huge amount of that's for the intensive sector. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In terms of managing stress, Andrew, do you feel like you carry a lot of stress? I feel like farmers now,
you know, as we've been talking about government policies, the environment, I feel like there's more stress on farmers than there ever has been.
Yes.
How would you say you manage your stress? Is there a time or a place that you can go to chill out?
Yeah, good question. I've never been asked that before. I've been asked everything else up to this point. Never been asked that. So I do kind of like stress, like pressure.
Yeah.
I do well under pressure. It motivates me.
Yeah.
But I do also need time off stuff. So I'm a big fan of a sauna. Big fan of like an ice plunge, something like that. I have stuff outside of farming.
Yeah.
That's like wakeboarding in the summer, or I'm like slightly obsessed with running at the minute.
Yeah.
I know a lot of farmers do them sort of things, right? But even when I was younger, like I would have went and played tennis, would have went swimming, like just stuff outside of farming.
Yeah.
That definitely helps you sort of de-stress a bit.
Yeah. And like, do you think it is hard to like nowadays stay passionate in farming? Do you think with all this stuff being bundled on top of everybody?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. If it wasn't for the good prices,
Yeah.
it'd be a lot more evident.
Yeah.
But good prices don't last forever.
Yeah.
So the way I would sort of put it is that the morale in farming is really taking a hit.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has got better, actually. This time last year, I think the morale was a lot worse. We had a really wet spring, and prices weren't amazing. Everyone had just been through a really tough winter.
Yeah.
And then we sort of had a pretty rough year, actually, all summer. But I think the last couple of months, people have got to the winter, the prices have been good, haven't had to worry about the weather. I definitely think people's morale has lifted a bit.
Yeah.
But it's one of them things that's not very tangible. But when you're just chatting to a lot of people,
Yeah.
you can sort of get a sense of how they feel about it all.
Absolutely. I think now more than ever, mental health is one of the biggest things in farming, and I don't think it's talked regularly enough about.
No, it's not. But I think what I and more so others do on social media has had a much bigger effect than people realise to sort of address that.
Yeah.
And it's really quite intangible, but just even seeing other people struggle,
Yeah.
it makes it sort of
Yeah.
makes your problems easier, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, farming is always going to be ups and downs.
Yeah.
And it's definitely hard to like deal with it all at times. But it's just the reality of farming.
Yeah, I think farmers go on to social media now and they see all their neighbours or people across the country putting the slurry out, and they're not able to do it, and pressure's building up.
Yeah, it's like sort of sharing a burden.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah. The future of farming, what do you think is going to be the outcome of this all?
I think that it's looking a lot better now than it was a few months ago. Kind of the same as what we said about everyone's morale has lifted. And the reason I think it looks better is because I think that the public are turning against the policies that were going to destroy us.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in law, in Northern Ireland, through the Climate Change Act, their independent climate change commission said that there will need to be an 86% reduction in animals in Northern Ireland to meet that target. That's in law. So that's going to have to happen unless it's changed, right? And then you also have stuff like the Greener Farm Commitment from Red Tractor, and inside that was wrapped up a 15% reduction in meat and dairy.
Yeah.
Now, it's gone, but I hope that the Climate Change Act will also be eventually changed through a change in politics.
Yeah, I think the whole aspect of climate change is...
People are turning against it, and it cannot happen soon enough.
No.
Yeah.
I think climate change there, for example, I think, does it even exist? Maybe, I don't know.
My approach is fairly simple, and I think it's a good approach for farmers to have, which is that I'm not going to debate someone on whether climate change is happening or not.
Yeah.
Like, the planet is getting warmer, okay? It does make sense to me that if you dig a heap of carbon out of the ground, it potentially will warm the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I can understand that. But the bit that is totally unscientific is the effects of that.
Yeah.
So when they tell you that sea level is going to rise by a foot, they don't know that.
No.
Okay? And you can go back to like the 90s and look at their predictions, and they're all wrong. Right? Now, conveniently, they'll not mention that. They'll sort of hope you don't realise that. But they're all wrong. So this thing of like, oh, it's a crisis, it's a crisis, it's a crisis, you have to act now. Well, we've heard that now for like a decade. And then they also say that we're not acting, we're not doing enough. So if we're not doing enough, and we only had 5 years, according to Greta Thunberg, and that passed last year, how come we're all alive? How come there's no real effects?
Yeah.
There's no real effects.
Yeah.
And that's why the public are suddenly going to wake up and realise, my life is getting worse because of this crisis that has never happened. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but then the politicians, the reason why they haven't changed is because they've invested so much political capital into it.
Yeah.
So if you're a politician and 3 or 4 years ago you said we have to bring in the Climate Change Act in Northern Ireland, it's essential, we have to do it.
Yeah.
You can't back away from that, okay? So you need a politician or a political party who is outside of that, who has the freedom to campaign on an anti-net zero agenda.
Yeah.
And in the UK, that's Reform. They want to get rid of net zero.
Yep.
And they're coming top in the polls at the minute.
Yep. Great to see.
Great to see. And then in America, you had Donald Trump, who pulled out of the Paris Climate Change Agreement, is scrapped the limitations on drilling for oil in America, has put an executive order in place that means that no future government will be able to stop fracking.
Yep.
Like, it's a total shift in policy from one change of government in America.
Yeah.
And whatever America does, the rest of the world has no choice but to follow.
Yep.
And Europe is an absolute economic disaster at the moment.
Yeah.
And why is it an economic disaster? Because of our energy prices. Like, why is food expensive? Because of energy prices. Like, it all comes back to energy. And if a politician was on whenever there's the next election and they're having a debate on the TV and they lay out the reality that net zero is costing every single person a heap of money,
yep,
people vote more than anything based on how they feel wealthy they feel.
Yeah. No, Trump has got a lot of hate in the media.
Yes.
He is hated
The
by
media here.
the media here.
Yeah, not so much in America.
I think it's more of a Gen Z,
Yeah,
area.
people definitely support Trump now.
Yeah.
I have seen it myself. See, one of the best things about social media is like you get a really good sense of what people think.
Yeah.
And like, say I do a video, and people don't agree with me,
Mm-hmm.
I will find out that day.
Yeah.
Okay. If people agree with what I'm saying,
Yeah.
they'll engage with it, they'll like it, they'll comment. You get such an instant feedback loop.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I've always been a big Trump fan, like
Yep.
back from 2015. But I dare not mention that like a year ago.
No, absolutely.
Like,
not.
I remember having a conversation with someone who is pretty well known on TikTok like a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
Both massive Trump fans, but we were both like, yeah, we can't mention that. You're like, but see now,
Yeah.
I've really pushed the boat out. Like, I mean, I done a video watching his inauguration speech, and like I was kind of half doing it as an experiment,
Yeah.
and so much support.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
it's crazy.
Yeah. I feel like after everything Trump had been through,
Yeah.
it was incredible to see.
See people coming through school, totally changed.
Yeah.
Like, totally changed.
Completely agree.
I used to do like a youth group
Yeah.
in our church,
Yeah.
and whenever I would have talked to them through about stuff like net zero and climate change, and like they were really skeptical, and they were kind of like, I'm not sure, I think you're wrong, we want to go support Greta. But now they're all like, it's destroying our future.
Yeah.
Like, they've changed so much, and the left has definitely lost the argument. The politics just hasn't caught up to the population
Yeah.
yet.
I think that's one step to hope, to be honest.
Oh, I agree. It's such a difference. And like,
Yeah.
like the stuff that Trump is doing in America makes me so jealous that we don't have it here.
Absolutely.
But I am not the only one looking at that, thinking that. And politically, we're in for a huge shift.
Yeah.
And like another really like thing I really want to like sort of try and capitalize on is that political shift.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of turmoil.
Yeah. I feel like the media nowadays has a lot to say about, they can filter what they want people to hear and what they don't want people to hear. And I feel like that's having quite a big impact on agriculture.
It definitely did, but no one believes them anymore. Like, that's another big shift. Like, no one believes them anymore. And they were all powerful up until, I think, COVID. I think COVID was the line in the sand, because everyone lived through that, listened to every word the media said, and then got out the other side and all of a sudden realised that it was all just total nonsense. It was like, what did we just live through? And it's pure propaganda. Like, it really, really is. And like I am like a vehement, I cannot stand like traditional media. And I go out of my way to insult them. And I will never be asked on to the BBC or to do an interview on radio or whatever, but honestly it does not matter.
No.
Because they are a dying sort of, they're the legacy, they're the past. Like, Sky's about to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
BBC, 500,000 people cancelled their licence fees last year, which is a record number.
Yeah.
They're now the government to try and stop people from cancelling their TV tax, which when you think about it is insane. People are taxed for owning a TV.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
What? But to try and stem the flow, they're thinking of taxing people now to watch Netflix.
Yeah.
Like, what, to support the BBC? Like, and it is genuinely propaganda. Like,
absolutely.
The American government was funding websites like Politico with like hundreds of thousands to millions of pounds a year. So if you're getting all that money from a government, are you going to insult them? No. If someone wants to pay me money, I'll not do a bad video about you on TikTok. Like, but it's mental. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I think like TikTok and YouTube now has a bigger effect.
Yeah, and X.
Than it ever has.
Yes, and Twitter and X is just unbelievable.
Elon Musk fan.
It's unbelievable. The man is unbelievable. Like, genuinely unbelievable. He has genuinely changed the course of the world.
Yeah.
Like, buying Twitter probably meant that Donald Trump got elected.
Yeah.
And that probably meant that farming in the UK actually might have a future.
Yeah.
Like it's like butterfly effect. And it does sound insane, especially to people who maybe haven't been actively engaged with what's going on politically. But it is genuinely that big of it's that important.
Yeah. I feel like Elon Musk is, bringing out this free speech, which is amazing, because I feel like we're filtered on nearly everything that we say.
Yeah.
So I feel like we have to watch.
We did, everything. Not anymore. We did have to do that. But I listened to a really good podcast. I don't know who it was. But I'm stealing what they said. But they said that like 10% of people are like hardcore right wing, 10% of people are hardcore left wing, and the 80% in the middle is up for grabs.
Yeah.
And they'll kind of just go with the general direction. And because that 80% will swing either way, that's why you get such big shifts in politics in a really short amount of time.
Yeah. And
the mainstream media, they were very much pushing the left's agenda through like 2015, 16, 17, 18, like through like the late 2010s.
Yeah.
And that's why we've seen such a body of people move left. That's why we ended up with insane stuff going into like laws, okay? Where you couldn't say like basic facts because you'd be banned. You couldn't criticize climate change because you'd be banned, okay? But the other side of that is once that the right actually gets some ability to communicate, which has been through social media, they have effectively managed to shift that 80% and move it back towards the centre ground.
Yeah.
And the media loves to say far right, okay? But the reality is the same people today who support Trump or reform probably would have voted for Tony Blair in the 90s. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly.
It's not far right, it's just like maybe centre right. It's completely normal, sensible things.
It is, yeah.
And it's just that people were indoctrinated for like 5 or 6 years to say that they were extreme ideas. And Trump has totally cleared that all out.
Yeah.
And the reality is that how wealthy people feel makes a bigger difference than anything else.
Yeah.
And Europe is just in an unbelievable state of decline. And that is going to lead to a really big political shift.
Yeah. I feel like Trump's going to do so many great things for farming in America.
Yeah, just for America in general. Yeah. And it'll be really, really interesting 4 years.
It will. I'm excited to see what happens.
Like, and this is such a stupid example, right? I told my wife this today.
Yeah.
We were in Belfast, and I was at like a W5, which is like a science amusement place.
Yeah.
And my kids were there for hours. So obviously I got bored. So I was like, I'll go get myself an iced coffee from the coffee shop. Ordered my iced coffee, and then I went and I wrote a script for a video about how climate scientists are a disgrace. That's coming soon. But that took me about an hour, and I was just sort of sipping away at my iced coffee as I was doing it. And I couldn't finish my iced coffee because my paper straw had disintegrated into nothing. I'm not even joking. Couldn't finish my iced coffee that I paid $3.50 for. And I was just thinking, like, 2 days ago, Trump signed an executive order in America to bring back plastic straws. Right? And I was like, I want plastic straws. Like, I'm fed up with this nonsense. It's like the bottle caps that don't come off your bottle.
They're pinned to the bottle now.
They're pinned to the bottle. And you have to pull them off, otherwise they just stick onto your nose.
That's right.
But to get them off, you spill your drink everywhere.
Yeah.
Because you have to be like, it's like, who comes up with this nonsense?
Yeah.
It's genuinely infuriating. So, like, do you know that recycling isn't actually recycled?
Yeah, most of it isn't.
Most of it isn't.
Most of it isn't.
This is why it's all just like a psyop. It's all just mental manipulation.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually make a difference. Like, if most of our recycling isn't recycled, address that problem first before you stick the bottle cap to the flipping container just so that it's slightly easier to recycle.
And for all that you'd be recycling in a bottle cap.
Yes, and they're not recycling it. Like, it's ridiculous. Do you know that the whole concept of recycling plastic came about from the plastic industry? They are the ones who claimed it was recyclable. And once it technically was recyclable, none of it was recycled. Still to this day.
Do you think that single-use plastics are going to be, integrated into farms for like the likes of bales and silo covers? Biodegradable?
Probably, yeah, because our politicians are idiots.
Yeah.
But it's like tinkering with the tiny details and not addressing actual big problems.
Yeah,
like,
that's what they've done all along.
It's insane. And there's a great example is Germany. Like, how dumb do you have to be politically to shut down all your nuclear power plants and then run out of energy and have to switch to coal?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like, there's no sense. It's no sense. And like the renewable energy thing, it's just a total fantasy. Yeah. And the sooner people catch on to that, the better. Like, whenever there was the storm, it was like 1.2% of the UK's energy was coming from renewables. So even if you did have enough renewables to supply all of the energy to the UK, you still have to have enough capacity that if all the renewables are off, like a storm in winter, you can still provide energy.
Yeah.
So if you have to maintain twice the capital infrastructure that you would otherwise have to maintain, who's paying for that? All of us idiots.
Yeah.
We pay 4 times more for electric than America. The reason why Germany has car plants closing down and Volkswagen is probably going to come to an end is because of their energy prices.
Yeah.
Because of net zero. Like, what? It's mad.
Do you think there's going to be many future opportunities in farming or threats?
I think farming will probably just stagnate. I don't think it is a particularly bright future, but I don't think it's particularly dire either.
Yeah.
I think the trend will continue that farms will get larger and larger. I think we'll just more and more see the end of like family farming. That'll be less and less of a thing.
Yeah.
Obviously there'll still be families who own farms, but they'll just be a much bigger scale.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad. I think the public won't appreciate what they've lost with the family farm until it's gone. But it's it's not a job which, like, I can understand why people think they don't want to farm. And, like, you have dairy farmers that are really decent size and they have children and none of them are going to take it over.
Yeah.
Totally get that.
Yeah. Do you think, like, the idea of someone, say, from the town who wanted to start a farm, do you think that idea is completely demolished now?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's impossible.
I was going to ask you what's your advice for new farmers, but
if you have to buy a farm,
yeah,
just forget about it.
Yeah.
If you have to rent a farm, forget about it. You're going to work your whole life to build up capital and have no money.
Yeah.
Like, and I see this a lot. Like, why would you waste the best years of your life slaving away to build up a farm? Like, I'm a big believer in enjoying your 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And not killing yourself working. Because, see, when you're 50, you're going to look back and you're going to think, I wish I'd done more fun stuff when I was 20 or 30.
Absolutely. I look at my father sometimes, and he's 64 now.
Yeah.
And he's been away once in his life.
Oh,
which
yeah.
was on his honeymoon.
Yeah.
And when we lost the cows to TB back in 2016,
Yeah.
took one trip to Portrush, and that was the only time.
That's mad. That's very common, though.
It's more common than you'd imagine. Yeah.
I have a thing where I try and, like, make decisions which I'm very unlikely to regret.
Yeah.
Okay? So, like, a great example for farmers is, are you ever going to regret going on holidays for a week? Like, I don't like holidays, right?
Yeah.
I don't like them. I don't want to go. But I'm willing to go because I realise that I'm never going to regret it.
Yeah.
So do stuff that you're never going to regret.
Absolutely. What would you say is, like, your proudest moment to date?
Oh, goodness.
It's a hard one.
That is a hard one. I don't know. People say I'm very arrogant. I get that a lot. As if, like, I'm really proud of myself or something, but I really am not like that at all.
From chatting to you, you seem humble, yeah.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not. Well, I am. I actually am, but I don't sound like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's my proudest achievement? I don't know. I really like running at the minute. And
yeah.
I really like getting a fast time or running a distance. I have a half marathon to run in 2 months.
Okay.
I'm not even close to getting a distance. So I'll preemptively answer the question.
Yep.
When I run the half marathon, that will be my proudest moment. Which is a rubbish answer, but it's actually true. Because, I don't know, it's just, I like challenging myself.
No, I think that's great. I think running's a great example because it takes resilience.
Yeah, I want to set up a farming gym. I'm convinced it's a good business and no one's telling me otherwise. I'm going to call it Culchies.
That's
yeah, and it's going to be a farmer-only gym, but obviously we'll let non-farmers in.
Yeah.
And I think there's a huge opportunity. This is semi a joke, but semi-serious, right? Yeah. I do think farmers do need something outside of farming.
Yeah.
And they may work all day, but believe me, they're not fit. Just because you work all day does not mean you're fit.
Yeah.
And it would do a lot of farmers the world of good just to, like, get away from the farm for like an hour.
Yeah.
It could be like the new mart. No one goes to the mart anymore. Just come to Culchies.
I absolutely love that idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I feel like people are sort of like afraid to go to the gym because
because it's all full of like influencers who are total idiots.
Yeah, people videoing themselves.
Yeah, whereas if it was for farmers only, a bit of smell of slurry, what odds? You know, you would need a good ventilation system.
You would need a good ventilation system.
It'd be quite a smell come February. Yeah.
Would you say you've learned from setbacks? What setbacks?
Oh, always, yeah. Big fan of failing fast.
Yeah.
So, don't overthink stuff. Just go and do it and see if it works. Mm-hmm. And like, I'd done that with farming. It was you just try something, see if it worked. If it didn't work, you learned again. So, can't really think of any examples, but I've done plenty of it.
Yep.
In tech, one of the nicest things about tech is you can just build something. If it doesn't work, you change something, try it again. So, I will iterate through a design.
Yeah.
Like maybe do like 4, 5, 6 versions before I get it right. And then social media, 0 cost to trying something. You get instant feedback. It's perfect for iterating.
Yeah.
Because you instantly learn what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your views on the likes of TikTok and YouTube and all the other platforms that we have?
People don't realise how powerful they are.
Yeah.
And I have sort of started to realise the potential. But it is not easy. And one of the things that is very obvious to me, which I don't think a lot of other people maybe get, is the rate of things moving. So if I done the same thing that I done last year on TikTok, I think I'd be basically irrelevant, because it moves so fast.
Yeah.
It's so competitive that if you don't keep up, you're going backwards. And whereas in farming, that is true, but it could be 30 years before you've moved backwards. And social media, everything's so fast.
Yeah.
It's like if you don't change in a year, you're just going to be one of them people who's like, TikTok's shadow banning me, but it's because you're making rubbish videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. What would be like your advice to someone looking to go into TikTok?
You have to do something different. So there's like a few stages of social media. This is my experience. This is definitely not the de facto only way to do something.
Yeah.
This is just my experience, so it's all I know. But when you're starting out, you have to be really different, because you're in a sea of like 10,000 other people. And if you're not different, no one cares.
Yeah.
Okay? And then you'll get to a point where you have an audience, but if you don't change what you're doing, that audience is going to get bored of you.
Yeah.
So just because something worked for you to get there, it doesn't mean it's going to work for you for the next year. So you kind of have to then adapt and change. And then I think once you get to like a certain, like a size again, which is kind of where I feel like I'm at now, I think you have to offer something more. And I haven't really thought this through completely yet, but I can change how I'm making videos and stuff. But if it's a great example is try and involve other people. So try and build something where it's not just you making videos, it's more of like a group of people, or like you're trying to achieve a bigger goal outside of social media. Or maybe some people turn it into like a business where they're selling merch and doing events and stuff. It's like taking it to that level where it's not just you on your own making videos. It's you're going outside of social media. Yeah.
Teaming together with other people.
Yeah, it's kind of like taking it more seriously.
Yeah.
So you've got to do something different when you're starting off. If it's not different, no one cares.
Yeah.
And then you've got to change, because if you don't change, the people who do follow you are going to get bored of you.
Yeah.
And then I think you need to try and do something that gets you past just you recording a video on yourself. And
I've noticed that a lot in your TikTok, you know, even from watching them myself, that, you know, one video you're on the farm doing something traditional, and the next video you're coding.
That is so deliberate. So what I want, I think, like, I do think of social media really strategically.
Yeah.
And like plan stuff, and like it's not just off the cuff. But I want it so that when someone sees me pop up on their TikTok, they have no idea what they're going to get.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to watch 3 seconds to find out if it's a video you're going to like or not like.
Yeah.
And if you've watched 3 seconds, if it's a decent intro, you're probably going to watch more of it.
Yeah.
Because I know for me, if I see certain people pop up and it looks the same background, they're talking about the same thing, I think, I've seen this before, I'm just gone. You got to keep people guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see in your videos, are they one take? Or
Oh, no, not at all.
Or do they take time? They take time?
Yes, a lot of time. Yeah, there's very few videos I script. I tried that, but I lost the personality.
Yeah, you're focusing on the script.
Yes, and it just doesn't really work. So I don't really do that anymore. I'll maybe, if there's like a video where I need to know something, like facts or something, I'll like put them on my phone.
Yeah.
But I just sort of do it off the cuff, but I might repeat a line like 3 times, like repeat what I'm saying like 3 or 4 times. And then I'll just know whenever it's right.
Yeah.
And then when I'm editing it, I have to edit it down to just the one that's right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm pretty unique. Like, almost no one else that does farming videos, very few edit their videos, like properly edit them on a computer.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, it sort of then differentiates me.
Oh yeah.
Something different.
Absolutely.
But I do constantly want to keep changing stuff. So my current thought is, my videos are very fast paced sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to try and slow that down a little bit, just to see what happens.
Yeah.
Just to see if that's a good or bad idea. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I think like the change of scenery. You know, you said fast paced there.
Yeah.
I think fast paced keeps people going.
It does, but also it can be really annoying. So, and I like, this is a good example, right? One of the best people at social media in farming is Drinkle. Okay.
Yeah.
She's fantastic.
She's very fast paced.
Too fast paced. I can't watch her videos anymore.
Yeah.
They're just like too much. I'm like, so that's made me think that mine might be the same.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from.
Just a rush of dopamine.
No, it's just, I'm just like, it's just overwhelming now. But no, to be clear, it definitely is still working.
Absolutely.
Like, her social media is crazy.
It's
really, really good. But I'm just like, maybe I want to slow mine down a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I do agree, like, that fast-paced stuff is what you need to do to, like, keep people engaged.
Yeah, like Drinkle, as you were talking about, you know, she can just come up with slogans and things, you know, like, and can just say it so quickly.
She is extremely entertaining.
Entertaining.
That's her whole thing, is entertainment, and it's very, very good.
And it would have you laughing at your phone.
Yeah, and like, I made a video like 9 or 10 months ago, and I was like, there's one person on TikTok who I think actually does a good job.
Yeah.
And it was like, that I think is like done a really, really good job, and I was like, it was her.
Yeah.
Someone guessed it, actually, couldn't believe it. But yeah, I don't know. I do watch a lot of other people on TikTok. I almost just watch TikTok now for market research.
Okay.
Strangely, yeah.
Right.
But it is interesting how everyone has a really different style.
Yeah. It's strange how TikTok's taken off, I feel now. You know, you don't know anyone. People are actually deleting the app to, you know, stop themselves from watching.
Yes, and then you get it again 6 months later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very.
Oh, the amount of people doing it as well.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but it is good. My thought on it really is like, it's very, very competitive. I want to offer something different.
Yeah.
But different can be good or bad, so.
Yeah. And how would you think you define success? Do you think there's a point you get to it where you're happy with all the coding you've done, or is it just something you enjoy and want to keep doing, or is there like a...
Coding, well, the farm, don't really have an answer for success. Probably pretty happy with where it is now.
Yeah.
Coding wise, tech business wise, I just really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Definition of for success for that would probably be finishing some projects.
Yeah.
And just having them finished.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if you want to buy this, it's here.
Yeah.
And like, actually finish a project and move on to something else. That's definitely what I want to do for success. So like, the new GPS systems or that project, it's like, I just want it finished, like done.
Yeah.
So that would definitely be success. Then with social media, I don't think you'll ever be happy.
No.
It's not like you can complete it.
No.
But one of the main goals for me with social media, and do you know, at the start I said that the reason why I was good at tech is because I was ridiculously ambitious and I didn't give up until I got there.
Yeah.
Same with social media. Like, I really want to kill the net zero stuff. I really want to kill the ESG woke nonsense, right?
Yeah.
And I am going to achieve that. I'm going to have some part to play. And for me, that's success. And I'm willing... People don't realise the lengths I go to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
To like in like 2 weeks... this is a good story. I'll tell you this story.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll appreciate me telling this story. I might get cancelled and not be invited to this anymore. But there is a company called Agri Insider.
Yep.
Who's an Irish media company. You've probably heard of them.
I've seen their videos.
Yeah, I've seen their videos. And they invited me to they're really not going to appreciate me telling the story. But they invited me to speak at an event like last January, right? And it was designed for like young people, but it was super woke. And I emailed them back in the autumn, like 2023, being like, this event is never going to work. No one's paying tickets for this. Like, you need to change your plan, right?
Yeah.
Turned out I was right. They then cancelled the event. They made up some excuse that might have been true, but I think people just didn't buy tickets. So then I was on their email list. And for the next year, I kept getting an email about ESG and dairy. ESG is like basically the DEI, like woke stuff, right? And how it applies to dairy farming, okay? Yeah. Obviously, that stuff annoys me. So I put up with getting their emails every single week for a year. And like 3 weeks ago, I finally lost it. I was in a bad mood. And I emailed back, thinking it was going to like a dead email, being like, read the room, DEI is dead, sooner it dies the better, thanks Andrew, okay? But it turns out it wasn't a dead email inbox, and then they replied to me, and were like, would you like to come and speak in the panel? So, like, totally unpaid, I'm having to drive to like nearly Cork, I'm wasting a day of my time to go sit in a panel for 50 minutes, right? But I'm going because I want to sit in that room and tell them all that I hope they all lose their jobs. You know what I mean? So it's like, I can't remember the point of my story, but I will go to like pretty extreme lengths to try and achieve something around that. Get rid of this net zero stuff, which is going to kill farming.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you have such a positive mindset. I feel like a lot of people nowadays don't have that.
Yeah, but see, if everyone tried to change something, it would change.
Yeah.
Like the inheritance tax thing is a really good example. Like what farmers have achieved, even if it's never changed, is really impressive. Mm-hmm. Like they have genuinely done real damage to the Labour government.
Yeah.
Like that is an achievement.
Absolutely. I feel like we need to be more like the French farmers.
Yeah, it won't happen. But yeah. And like the net zero stuff, once the public turn against it, the politicians will just follow like sheep.
Yeah.
Like
I think the sooner the media dies,
the better.
Yeah, I feel like that has a lot.
No, I think that's already happened, to be honest. Like it really has. Like the fact that Donald Trump got elected and won the vote of the young people.
Yeah.
Like that is a big deal, and it just sort of illustrates what's already happened. And I think I can't remember the statistic, I'm going to get it wrong, but it's something like 90% of under 25s don't watch any TV during the week. The average American spends an hour and a half a day on TikTok.
That's wild.
Like, it's clear where people's eyeballs are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not watching a TV.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've got a few questions, just a few easygoing questions. Do you have any family traditions that are...
No, I try and start some traditions, but people don't stick to them. So I tried to start a tradition that we go for a sauna on the beach on New Year's Day and then go in the sea. And I got it like happening like 2 or 3 years. And then it's like, it's just died. It didn't happen this year for the first time. It's raging. People are useless. No, not really any family traditions, but I would like some.
Yeah. What do you think is one of the like most surprising things that has happened while farming?
I have no idea. Farming doesn't really produce that interesting of stories, does it? No idea. Nothing surprising. Well, my brother done something pretty stupid. Isn't that surprising? But we were doing silage and the silage shoulder wouldn't go down. So he drove down the whole lane with the silage shoulder up in the air. And he was really careful on the way down because he didn't want to hit a tree. Then he got to the bottom and was like, I can't go on the road with this silage shoulder up in the air. So he turned round. And then he didn't go slow on the way back up. He went flying back up the lane, hit a tree and wrecked the side of the shoulder. That's not really surprising, but it is surprising. Who would be that stupid? Surprising. Yeah, who would be that stupid? Yeah.
And is there any final thing that you'd like to tell everybody else?
Get political with your social media, because, and I don't care which side, you can have your own views, but it does make a difference. Yeah. It's one of them things where you can have a part in shifting that 80%.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything anyone can do to help change these government policies?
Yeah, engage with politicians. That's what I'm trying to do at the minute.
Yeah.
It's like if we can make farming more attractive to politicians,
Yeah.
they're more likely to support it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely something people can do.
Yeah.
What that looks like, I have no idea.
I feel like we're always stuck in the milking parlour.
Yeah, I had an idea. It's not going to work, unfortunately, but I had an idea that maybe all the farmers, in a year and a half, there's elections in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
And Andrew Moore's seat is in North Down.
Yeah.
And I was like, what if every farmer showed up in North Down and campaigned against Andrew Moore and just went round and explained to all of his voters what he's done for 5 years and what state TB is in,
Yeah.
and how Lough Neagh is a total farce and like should never have been a priority, and maybe try and get him unelected, but unfortunately he's in like the safest of safe seats. So that plan didn't come together, but maybe that would have worked, I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Andrew, you've been incredibly interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you.